What's up guys, I'm Andy from 1A Auto. In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the front lower control arm on this 2010 Toyota Rav4. If you need this part or other parts for your vehicle, click the link in the description and head over to 1aauto.com. All right, I raised and supported the vehicle. I'm going to remove the wheel. I'm using a 21mm socket and an air gun. If you don't have an air gun, you can use a breaker bar. Just crack the lug nuts free while the vehicle is still on the ground. All right. Now I want to take the tire off. This one's stuck on there pretty good, so I'm going to put one lug nut on so the tire doesn't go flying, and just hit it on the back side of the tire with a hammer. Break it free. Reason you leave the lug nut so the tire doesn't go flying. Now take the lug nut off and pull the tire off. All right, I'm going to take this cotter pin out. Now this one is somewhat of a reusable one, so I'm going to use some needle nose and a pick right here, and just try to slide this little lock out and then slide the cotter pin out. So as long as it doesn't break and it doesn't look too bad, you can reuse it. Now I'll take a 19mm wrench and I'm going to take this nut off. Oh, actually, I'll slide it on this way. Actually, I'm going to need a pipe because it's on there pretty good. All right, I'm just going to put a pipe on the end. Loosen this up. Makes it a little easier, get a little more leverage. Now I'll just take the nut off. There we go. Now I'm going to use a fork to, sometimes they call this a pickle fork. I'm going to use a pickle fork to remove this ball joint. Because I'm not saving it, if you were saving it, there's other tools you can use that won't ruin the boot, but generally these pickle forks ruin the boot. So I'll just put that there and just hit it with a hammer. There we go, released it. All right, so that's loose. I don't have to worry about that right this second. I want to take this bolt out, and then there's another bolt right here. I'm just going to use a little rust penetrant. Just squirt that bolt down right there. There's a nut right on top. I'm going to take a 22mm wrench, put it on the nut on the top, and a 22mm socket with my air gun on the bottom. Take this bolt out. If you don't have an air gun, you can use a breaker bar. Now I'm going to loosen this bolt up. I'm going to use a 22mm socket and a breaker bar. Loosen it up. This one's really tight. All right, and just switch to a ratchet. Be careful because the oil pan's right here. One, you don't want to damage or dent the oil pan, and two, you don't want your ratchet to get stuck. If you have a ratchet that switches right here, you could get stuck. Go a little bit further. Oh, see? I got stuck. Luckily, my switch is down here. A little more. All right. Now I'll just have to do it by hand or with a wrench. If I had a 22mm ratchet wrench, that would be ideal, but I don't, so it's just going to take a little bit of time. Okay, so this bolt is loose, but there's a problem. You can't get it past the oil pan. Now, certain oil pans have a notch in them, and then you can get this bolt out, and it's no big deal. Now, one option, you could take the oil pan down, so then you can slide this bolt out, but that's a lot of work just to get this bolt out. So what we're gonna do is take these bolts out here. I'm gonna take this plate off back here, take this bolt out, and then there's one more bolt up here. I'll take that bolt out. I'm gonna support this frame while I do that. And we're gonna pry this down and try to get this bolt out. So I'm just gonna use a screw jack and support this right here. Then I'm going to start taking those bolts out. I'll take these two bolts out using a 17mm socket and an air gun. Then I'll take this bracket off. I'll use the 19mm socket in the air gun. That bolt's a little bit longer. Now I'm going to take a 19mm socket and extension in the air gun. I have to go through the lower control arm right here, and the bolt's right there. Take that bolt out. A little rusty. Just like that. Now on the opposite side, I'm not going to take these bolts out. I am just going to loosen them up. Just loosen this one up right here. Use the 19mm socket extension in the air gun. Just enough. That's good right there. Now I'm going to loosen this one up with the 19mm socket in the air gun. Oh, I don't have to loosen it that much. Just a little bit. I don't want this to completely fall. I just want to get a little, just be able to drop it down a little. I'll take these two bolts out. Use the 19. Just like that. Just let that hang. Get those loose. Now I can just drop this cradle down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is take a pry bar, just get in between the subframe and the body of the vehicle, and just pry down right there. And then you can take the bolt and just slide it out. Get just enough room. Or you could even try prying in between the subframe and the engine. Although you don't want to ruin the engine, so don't do that. So with that out, now we can grab the control arm. Just slide it down. You might have to push this in a little bit. And then slide it out. Take a pry bar. Just get in here. Pry it out there. So that's pried out. Then you can pry it out from there. That's not going to work. You can get a bigger pry bar. Just pry it out. There you go. Here's the old part. Here's the new lower control arm from 1aauto.com. Comes with the same bushings right there and there. It comes with a new ball joint. It comes with a new castle nut. Take this castle nut off and there's just a protector on that. Take that off before you install it. And it comes with a new cotter pin as well. Get yours at 1aauto.com and you'll be ready to rock and roll. So if you happen to be doing the driver's side, the procedure is going to be the same. You're going to have to loosen up those subframe bolts and stuff. One thing to keep in mind, there is two nuts right here, and then if you take this panel off, there's two bolts right there. If you're struggling with that, you can loosen up this mount right here that's gonna support the engine. So then you might be able to tip it down a little bit more, or even put a block of wood and a floor jack underneath the transmission, just jack it up. Very carefully though, you don't want to bend the pan or anything, or even on the engine side. So that's, if you're struggling a little bit with this, try that. So the easiest way to install this is put the back part in first, get this lined up, and I'm just gonna get this back bolt started. Might have to remove it, but for the most part, I get this started. Right there, put the nut on top. And just slide this over here. Get that lined up there. I'm just gonna use my pry bar on the subframe. Just get in between there. And try to get that bolt lined up. Not gonna line up too well. this is somewhat where you need a helper. You could have someone over here prying. Get this started. All right, let's try this. All right, that's started right there. Now use the pry bar over here, pry this down, and get that started. That's good. Just want to make sure this gets started though. Now we'll leave those loose. We'll torque those last, and we can raise this up. Just use the screw jack. Then I'm going to take these bolts. These are the 17mm bolts. Use a 17mm socket. Get these started. Get these back bolts in. These two. Take this bolt. Get that bolt back in. All right, good. And then these two back ones over here. Now I'm just gonna snug these all up with the gun first, and then I'm gonna go around and torque them. Now I'm gonna tighten these two with a 17mm socket and a torque wrench to 73 foot-pounds. Now I only did these two on this side. I did not take the ones out on the other side, but if you did, then torque those at this time. Next, I'm going to torque these 4 bolts. There, and there. I'm going to torque that with the 19mm socket and the torque wrench to 69 foot-pounds. Next, I'm going to torque these two, that side and the driver's side, because I loosened it up, to 101 foot-pounds. And that's a 19mm socket. And for the body, I'm going to torque these to 101 foot-pounds, both sides. Yep. I can remove the screw jack. All right, now I'm going to tighten this bolt up. Now what they want you to do is put this all back together, put the tire on, and then put this on the ground and have this at ride height, and then torque this, but that's very difficult to do. So what I'm going to do is just try to get the control arm as close as I can to ride height. So maybe a little lower than that. About right there, and then I'm going to torque that bolt. The reason why you want to torque it with the lower control arm at ride height angle is to keep less tension on that bushing. If you torqued it with the control arm way down, then you're going to have a lot of stress in that bushing. It'll just make the bushing last longer. So I'm going to use a 22mm socket and a torque wrench. I'm going to torque this to 172 foot-pounds. There you go. Go to the gym. Now I'm going to put a 22mm wrench on the top nut on the back control arm bolt. Just snug this up first. And then I'm going to torque that. Then I'm going to torque this to the same 172 foot-pounds with a 22mm socket. Now it's a little bit difficult because you have to hold the wrench on top while you're doing this. Now they say to torque the bolt, not the nut. I'm going to do it from over here. I don't want to smash that rotor. There we go. Right, that's all set. Get the knuckle lined up with the ball joint. Just pry the ball joint out a little bit. And just wiggle this a little. Take the castle nut, get that started. Take a 22mm wrench, start to tighten this down. To get the proper torque on this nut, if you're going to use a torque wrench, you're going to want to torque that to 98 foot-pounds, which is actually a lot for a ball joint. But what you can do is take a wrench and take a pipe, get a pipe on the end of it, and try to tighten it up the best you can. So I did this pretty good. I think it's all right. And then what you want to do is line up the hole for the cotter pin. So you might have to tighten it up even a little bit more. And then we're going to install the new cotter pin that comes with this. And just slide it through the hole that way. You can try to get it through the back side. All right, it's not going to go in through the back side, so let's go through the front side. And then I'm just going to take some straight cutters and bend over one end at a time. It is a good idea to replace the cotter pin whenever you're doing that. You really shouldn't reuse it, even though we said we were gonna reuse it. There we go, fold one of those over. Then you can either fold the other one down or just trim it off. And that's gonna prevent the nut from loosening up. Just make sure it's not hitting the CV boot at all. You don't wanna rip the CV boot. It should be good right there. Now install the tire. Take the lug nuts, install the lug nuts. Now I lowered the vehicle down to the ground so that the tire's just touching the ground. And I'm going to torque these with a 21mm socket and a torque wrench to 76 foot-pounds. And I'm going to do this in a star pattern. The reason you do it in the star pattern is so that the wheel gets tightened down evenly. And then I always like to go around again just to double check. Whenever you do a job like the one we did today, you're going to want to go to a local shop and have your alignment adjusted, because you don't want to end up with premature tire wear. Whenever you change components or even remove them and reinstall them, things change, and you want to make sure everything is lined up so you're good to go.
Thanks for watching. Visit 1AAuto.com for quality auto parts shipped to your door, the place for DIY auto repair. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button.